If you'd seen me in the checkout line at the grocery store 2 years ago, you'd never guess the secret I was holding inside. I was 56, going gray at the temples, divorced, and smiling politely as I handed over coupons. But on the inside, I felt invisible and terrified. My job at the library was ending. My savings were thinner than my patience. And I was just so tired of telling myself that my best years, my purpose, my chance to build something meaningful were behind me. But what if the story wasn't over? What if the future I'd always thought was out of reach was actually waiting for me if I was brave enough to claim it? I'm here to tell you, the universe is listening, no matter your age or how many times you've been told to be realistic. This is the story of how I went from just getting by to becoming an entrepreneur at 58. Thanks to a random Instagram story, the law of attraction, and the willingness to believe that a new beginning can start at any age. Let's back up. My name is Ellen, and I've lived in Philadelphia my whole life. Raised 3 kids in a row house in East Falls, worked at the public library for over 20 years, and carried on after my marriage fell apart. Like so many women my age, I did what needed to be done, kept the house running, juggled schedules, put everyone else's needs before my own. When the library announced it was shutting down our branch, I was stunned. I'd given them decades, poured myself into that place. Now what? The job market wasn't kind to women of a certain age. I spent months applying for positions, getting polite rejections, or worse, complete silence. My youngest, Jamie, called almost every day from grad school, worried about me. "Mom, you've still got so much left to give." Easy for her to say. The truth was, I'd been telling myself the same tired story for years. Don't dream too big. Be grateful for what you have. Who would take a risk on someone like me anyway? But what if I could take a risk on myself? One cold Friday night, after another fruitless round of job applications, I was scrolling stories on Instagram, mindlessly tapping through influencers and recipes. Then, almost by accident, I landed on a video about starting your own business after 50. The woman was in her 60s, laughing and assembling flower arrangements in a sunlit studio. She talked candidly about fear, about imposter syndrome, about how many mistakes she'd made before things clicked. But the sentence that grabbed me was, "Your age is your advantage. You know what matters, and you know what you won't settle for." I watched it twice, heart racing. Something inside me stirred. It was equal parts hope and defiance. Maybe I was tired of waiting for permission. That night, lying in bed with the glow of my phone lighting up the ceiling, I searched for women entrepreneurs over 50. One link led to another, and soon I'd bookmarked a whole series. Start Here, Entrepreneurship After 50. I read stories of ordinary women launching catering businesses, tutoring services, dog walking companies. Their words felt like a rope ladder out of the pit I'd been living in. By the next morning, a quiet resolve had settled in. I remembered something my grandmother used to say: "You can't steer a parked car." Maybe I didn't know the destination, but I could at least try to move. The first challenge in the entrepreneurship series was simply to dream. Write down 10 business ideas that excite you. At first, my mind went blank. But as I let myself play, small sparks flew. A small-scale bookshop cafe that doubles as a community hub. I'd always loved the smell of books and coffee. A proofreading and editing service, remote or local. Organizing seniors' homes, helping people like me, overwhelmed by decades of memories. Hosting workshops for women starting over in life. Each idea felt both thrilling and terrifying. Still, I wrote them out, and for the first time in ages, the old familiar voice that said, "You can't," was just a whisper. The next video in the series was about mindset. The woman talked about the law of attraction, but in a way I'd never heard before. What you focus on, you grow. Your thoughts plant seeds in the universe. Are you growing weeds or wildflowers? She recommended starting each day with one simple affirmation. I am open to new opportunities. I rolled my eyes, but I wrote it on a sticky note and stuck it to my bathroom mirror. Over the next week, I did the exercises and watched the recommended content. There was a short meditation inspired by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Imagine your future self living the life you desire and feel it in your body right now. At first, it felt forced, but I kept at it, picturing myself greeting customers, running a cozy shop, laughing with new friends. Something in me began to shift. I started to feel less like a burden, more like a conscious creator of my own reality. It was subtle, but enough to make the days less heavy. I started talking about my ideas, quietly at first, just with Jamie, then with a couple of friends from the library. To my surprise, none of them laughed or said I was crazy. In fact, my friend Susan, the shyest of the bunch, said, "If you start a bookshop, I'll be your first customer and your best brownie baker." That little show of support felt like a sign from the universe. The synchronicities started coming. An article about a pop-up retail space for rent. My neighbor mentioning she was downsizing and had bookshelves to sell. A business class for women offered at the local Y, free for residents over 55. Still, the doubts crept in, especially late at night. What if I fail? What if I lose what little I have left? But I remembered what I'd learned about the power of intention. You don't have to see the whole path, just the next step. Every night, I wrote 3 things I was grateful for, a little gratitude practice that kept me anchored even when anxiety tried to pull me under. The Entrepreneurship series issued a challenge. Take one real-world step this week. Don't just plan or dream, act. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my list. My heart pounded. Then, in a burst of reckless courage, I sent an email to the community center, inquiring about renting their lobby on Saturdays for a Book Nook pop-up. I barely slept that night, mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. But by morning, there was a reply in my inbox. "We love the idea. Let's meet this week." That afternoon, I dug old boxes of books out of the basement, dusting them off. Jamie helped me design a flyer. I practiced my pitch in the mirror, fingers trembling, repeating my new affirmation. I am open to new opportunities. Success finds me at every age. The first Saturday, I arrived at the community center an hour early. The space was small, but it glowed with the morning sun. I arranged books, a table with coffee and brownies, thanks to Susan, and set up a chalkboard sign, "Ellen's Book Nook, Stories, Welcome Here." To my shock, people actually came. Some were curious, some just needed a warm place to sit, some brought their grandkids. I made $63 in sales, but more than that, I saw faces light up as they found old favorites or new treasures. One older man lingered for over an hour, then pressed my hand and said, "Thank you for bringing this energy back to the neighborhood." His words landed somewhere deep in my chest, a small confirmation that what I was doing mattered. That evening, exhausted but elated, I sat on my dilapidated sofa, counting receipts. The number didn't matter as much as the feeling. My thoughts create my reality. I was doing it. The next month was a roller coaster. Some Saturdays, business was slow. Other days, the coffee maker broke, or it snowed so hard only 2 people showed up. More than once, I caught myself wondering if it was all a mistake. Maybe people don't need what I have to offer. Maybe I'm too old for this. But each time doubt crept in, I returned to the practices that had gotten me this far. My daily affirmations, my gratitude journal, my visualization of smiling customers, and a lively shop. I listened to a podcast with Abraham Hicks about returning to a positive mindset even when circumstances were tough. The advice stuck with me. You don't need to control the outcome, just your energy in this moment. The universe handles the rest. Slowly, in fits and starts, things began to shift again. Mid-April, just as I was thinking about scaling back, I received a call from the director of a local after-school program. She'd visited my pop-up with her nephew and was looking for someone to host a weekly reading hour for the kids. "You have a way of making stories come alive," she said. That opportunity turned into a small contract, hardly a fortune, but enough to cover groceries and give me purpose. And it linked me with parents and teachers who began spreading the word about my book nook. The energy was changing. I could feel the vibrational alignment. Inside, I was lighter, more hopeful, and the world was sending tangible responses. By summer, I had a steady group of regulars, families, retirees, young people looking for community. I expanded my offerings, running book swaps and potluck story nights. People started donating books, baking muffins, bringing jam. We'd end up talking about life, loss, dreams deferred and reawakened. One day, a woman about my age approached after a busy morning. We talked for an hour about starting over, the fear and excitement of creating something from scratch. She said, "I thought I was finished, but seeing you out here so alive, I'm thinking maybe I've got another chapter left too." It struck me then. This was never just about selling books. It was about hope, connection, a sense of belonging. I had become a channel for something bigger than myself. A conscious creator, yes, but also a gatherer of stories, a weaver of community. Of course, not every day sparkled. There were weeks when the bills piled up, or a critical review online made me question everything. I'd have nights haunted by money worries and the ghost of my old, secure life. But each time I pulled out my notebook, sat with my doubts, and wrote, "It's okay to be afraid. I choose to trust the universal laws. I choose to see abundance, even in small ways." I revisited lessons from Louise Hay. Every experience is an opportunity to grow and heal. I am learning. I am worthy. My timing is perfect. And slowly, the fear dissipated, replaced by a quiet steadiness that carried me through. As my confidence grew, so did my dreams. I started seeing the possibility of one day opening a full shop with programs for seniors, creatives, and kids. I wrote out my vision. A vibrant, welcoming bookstore with a community cafe, open to all, changing lives one story at a time. I'd sit for a few minutes each morning, visualizing it as if it already existed, smelling the coffee, hearing laughter, the soft thud of books being opened, sunlight pouring through the windows. That's when the quantum manifestation took root. Out of nowhere, an old library friend called to say she was retiring and knew someone with an empty retail space looking for a tenant who wanted to make a difference. The rent was still steep, but the landlord offered a startup grant for community-based projects. It felt like the universe was opening a door I never would have seen if I'd given up at the first setback. After months of planning, fundraising, and many sleepless nights, I opened the doors to Ellen's Book Nook and Cafe. The first customer was a little girl who burst in, giggling, and asked if she could sit in the window and read. Her mother smiled, tears in her eyes, and said, "We've needed a place like this." As the shop filled with neighbors, old friends, new faces, I stood at the counter, hands wrapped around a mug of my own, and felt a wave of gratitude that nearly knocked me off my feet. I was living proof that the universe is listening, that when you step forward with intention, trust, and a willingness to embrace both the fear and the joy, miracles start to unfold. Nowadays, I still have days when worry creeps in or the what-ifs get loud, but I return to the practices that changed my life. Daily gratitude practice, for the business, yes, but also for the courage to change. Affirmations, I repeat them every morning. I am never too old to begin again. Abundance flows to me in expected and unexpected ways. Visualization. I see not just the shop, but the smiles, the small moments of magic that happen every day. I remind myself of the synchronicity in every chance meeting, every opportunity that seemed to find me just as I was ready. Looking back, I realized that starting my business after 58 wasn't a detour. It was the path I was always meant to take. I became not only a business owner, but an example for my kids, my community, and myself of what's possible when you don't let age, fear, or circumstance write your ending. Every chapter can begin with a single, brave word. Why not start now? If you've ever wondered if it's too late, If the universe has forgotten you, or if your dreams are still possible, please, let my story be your sign. It's never too late to be a conscious creator. Every age is the right age to start over, to chase joy, to show the world who you truly are. If you're ready to believe in new beginnings, comment below. My next chapter starts now. If my story gave you hope, please like, subscribe, and share. Someone out there might need reminding that their story isn't over yet either. Remember, the universe is listening. All you have to do is speak your wish and take that first wobbly, beautiful step.